Well, that's about the size of it, right there. I present to you the first ever incredible quivering exposed cold air grabber, also known as the SHAKER hood, on a 1956 Chrysler. Since we're going the muscle car theme, we thought, why not? First thing we have to do is figure out where the hole is going to be. And I did that by putting a long stud into the carburetor, closing the hood very gently, and then tapping around the center, roughly where I thought that stud was going to be. And that gave me a center point. And from that, I just kind of, well, you saw it, and away we went. So this was the easy part. Next part is to go from the breather on, or the air filter, I should say, on the engine to the traditional scoops you see. Now this might not be the exact same scoop on a moderner Mopar, but it's something that suits the shape of the car. Worst case, if I don't like it, we just flatten this out, make a piece, wheel it up. I can do a video on that, and we can fill it in. I hope I didn't upset too many people. I figured might as well do it before I lose my nerve, because this was a pretty decent hood. there's a little dent, well, a significant dent right here. I have to take care of that before it goes into primer. We can't fill it with Bondo. I'm sure there's a big, it's almost like somebody stepped on it or somebody laid something on it. Not sure, but there's something like this right here. Gotta take care of that. And then if you saw it on the front of the car, you would have noticed, you may have noticed, that it's off by a heavy 1/4 inch to the right side, the passenger side. What do you guys think? Yes, no, too late? Well, it's never too late. We can always back up, but I'm gonna move forward with this. It's gonna be a lot of fun, really different, never seen it on a classic car before. And we're treating this as if it was a factory prototype created by some skunks group back behind the scenes at Chrysler that wanted to have some fun with an old Windsor. Okay, well, at the time it would have been a new Windsor, but for us, you and I, this is an old Windsor that I have to get reminded once in a while by some people that the car is not worth anything, and why are we doing this? Because it's fun. Anybody want this? We'll save it in case I have to fill it back. Actually, it's going to be too small by the thickness of a zip blade. So it'll be a template. It can be a template, that's right. Hey, the hood is lighter. Uh-oh. I need to get that stud into there. And my stick is gone. My prop rod. What do we do? It's over there and I'm over here. Okay. I don't like that. Help! Yeah. That'll work for now. If I was able to get that up, ooh, I know. There is a dolly down in there. I was looking for that guy. Okay, if this stays put, it will. We'll get the studs on the back. Now, if anybody was paying attention as to how I took this hood off, put in the comments whether it was more important to undo the front bolts or the back ones. Think about that for those of you who have never pulled the hood off before by yourself. Not trying to sound smart or anything, just want you guys to think a little bit as well. For those who have never pulled the hood off before. Lefty, loosey, ready, tighty. Yeah, that's right. Why aren't you, is this because it's a Chrysler? Every bolt on the driver's side of the center line to the left of the center line is reverse thread, left hand thread. Nope, normal threads. I dropped the nut earlier. You think I can find it? More than likely it's directly under the center of the car. I'm going to leave these loose because I need to center the hood within the hole. I take this prop rod out, get the dolly out. That's from when I was working on this grill. Got left behind. Nice and slow. Yeah, we are a lot more to the passenger side. So she's got to rotate. Still off to one side. What's going on? little bit better, but we're still 1/4 inch off. I'll show you. See the peak of this fascia? These were lined up. Now, when I blew everything apart to work on the pieces and reassembled it, I left the hood on. I thought everything was centered, but then I noticed that something was off. See, wider gap on this side, next to nothing on the passenger side. I'll check the gap here at the back. Look at that, nice. On this side, let's go check the other side. If you look at that scoop there, you might notice, you can zoom in on it. See the little dip? When I rolled that flange, I actually peened without, intentionally doing it, but I peened that flange. It stretched it, which moved it down. So we're gonna have to do some metal work and bring that flange upward so that we have a nice crown, the crown that flowed from the back of the hood to the front. Yeah, this side, see that? Same gap as the driver's side. So what that means is something has shifted up front. There's a mount up underneath there. I can't get in there, it's too low. We have to undo that and shift the front end over to the passenger side, and that will help with this alignment. Whenever you're lining up panels, it can get very tricky. I did a series on a 1970 Camaro where the car was at several different shops and everybody had their hand at it. We got it, and without removing the quarters because they were freshly installed in the wrong spot, we were able to massage all the panels on the car to those quarters. The car came out fantastic. So it's just a matter of knowing where to pull, where to push, and taking the time to study it. Right there. Let's loosen those bolts off. I think it's 3/4 inch, and we're going to try shift it. Just loosen off a little bit. Easier if this bumper wasn't here, but I don't feel like removing it right now. It's not really in our way. Let's see if I can. Nope. Yeah. Well, it helped a little bit, but I need more mechanical advantage to pry. So let's get a bar in there. There we go. So that's what it is. The front end is rocking up, down, from side to side. So I'm gonna have to, there's a shim in the front that needs to be adjusted. Oh yes, right there. Now if I can tighten this up, that would be great. If I can drive this up higher, that'd be better. Oops, I knew that was gonna happen. There we go. You know, that is a lot better already, just from that little bit of movement we did. This is what I was talking about. That right there. That hood bumper's too high. I've shifted the front end over. Let's bolt it up before we lose what we gained. So the gap on this side is looking good, consistent all the way from front to back. The gap on the driver's side, again, not too bad at the back, it grows a little bit at the front. Alright guys, so I've spent the past little while dialing this hood in. These seams along the sides, they are getting very close. I've got the front lining up just about where it needs to be. It needs to move to the left a little bit. That means undoing those back corner bolts, sliding or rotating the hood this way just a smidgen, and everything's going to line up. Now these bumpers on either side are keeping the front of the hood up a little bit, so we can turn them down and have that come in a little closer, because this gap is a bit much, and that'll help us along the sides there. You saw me bumping it with a 2x4 to get those sides kind of straightened out, lengthening the hood and down in place. So in terms of the hole in the hood for the shaker hood, or the incredible quivering cold air intake, I think that's what they called it. Here's a really long name. Got that metal finished all the way around the perimeter, got the flange all cleaned up. It's just going to be a vertical flange rolled just past 90, and that's going to be sufficient for that. This hood is pretty darn stiff because of the curvature. It looks flat, but there's a lot of curvature to it, so it's really strong. Now this blotch of black right here, I was mentioning earlier, as somebody either stepped on it, right there, or put something heavy on it or whatever, who knows. But there's a big dent right here. And I saved that to work it out with you guys. Just making some final adjustments to the height of this top section. That's going to sit well right there. And I've got this little piece, this profile that I've bent up that we're going to fit in right there. Yeah. So we need to build a perimeter now that'll support this on top of that lower housing that comes up underneath the hood and seals to the underside. There'll be some vents here, of course, and we need to make this top piece a little smaller. So that's what you saw me doing earlier, drawing a perimeter around it, cutting some off, drawing a secondary perimeter, and then cutting, or we're going to be bending that in the tipping wheel in a second. I just want to make sure that we are located center. I think that's going to be it. Make one mark at the back to locate, and we can take this off. Good. So basically we want to roll a flange over. It'll be the starting flange downward into that lower piece. And instead of making the joint on the corner with this flange, it makes it a lot easier to blend half an inch down from the top. Now this flange is going to vary in angle. The front is going to have a little more angle than the back and the sides. The back will have a very slight angle. This hood is 18 gauge. If somebody told me, well, I would have believed it. Back in the day, they used real steel for cars. Now these corners aren't rolling down, so we're going to have to do that manually. And this paint is quite brittle. It's cracking up. Ha ha ha! How far do we go? Well, we'll find out when we roll it over. Because I'm not sure. I'm just going by feel. Worst case, we flatten it out. And this point is creating an issue because the material has no place to go. And we're actually getting a concave top, which is something I didn't want to happen, but we'll fix it. Just about there. One more pass. That's it. Okay, so as you can see, this paint is really chipping off, and that's just going down to the primer, which means this white paint didn't stick to that primer very well. Primer's still holding up. So, yeah, you can see it's dished this way. So I'm going to take this paint, grind it off, strip it off. I have a stripping disc, paint stripping disc. And then we'll put this in the tipping wheel, in the shrinker stretcher, and give this some curvature. Now, before I get into stripping off that paint on the backside, I'm going to set up a dolly here, which, well, you can see I've done. And take this corner and roll it down, kind of shrink it into itself. Does that look a lot better? Nice. So I cleaned up the backside a little bit, just a flange. I'll deal with that later. Right now we're gonna just get this some shape, or restore the shape, I should say. It has shape, but it's the wrong shape. I think I'm liking this radius better than this radius here. It's a little bit softer. So I'm going to switch dollies around and soften that up all the way around. Yeah, it looks much nicer. This is too crisp, too sharp for that hood. That's it. Okay, so let's get things set up here like they were on the engine. This thick line here represents the green line up there. Get the center line. This breather or air filter housing is off center. And that's going to sit just like that. We'll have about a 3/4 inch flange at the bottom, and we're going to have this roll up and pick up this flange here. Now this is way too long, so we can cut back a little bit on that. And I might even cut back on this flange here. It'll help us in cleaning up the edges, being that it's 18 gauge, little devil to roll nicely. It can be done, but get it done a little bit faster if we trim a little bit off. So let's take off 1/4 inch. Yeah, I take off a 1/4 inch there, and take off another 1/4 inch here. This is cardboard, so if we mess it up, I can just do it all over again, another piece of cardboard. This upper unit is going to bolt down in several spots to the lower unit. This lower unit is going to have a flange that rolls up about 1/2 inch at the front, 1.5 inches at the back, and because it's sitting so tight up against the hood, they on the 56 Chrysler got that hood nice and low, especially at the front, which is why I love the looks of this car. We have to create an inset and bring this center section up and the outside down. So there'll be a bit of a step there. Now when it comes to the breather top, I'm calling it a breather, but I mean like air filter. We've got the Element, and we've got the original one. This one fits the best. I've gone through what we had on the shelf, and this one, which came with the car, seems to fit the best and look the best if we flip it upside down. The reason why I say that, there's a little recess or step right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. Little step there. So if we cut just on the outside of that step, it'll sit and center itself on the Element, and we'll keep it as one of the original parts of the car. If you're concerned, I was concerned that moisture would sit in the top here. Not a problem, we'll just drill a couple of holes and let it drain down. I'm kidding. We have a flapper on the front, or we're going to make a flapper on the front of this shaker top, so that from the inside you either actuate with a cable or actuate with a switch, a button, or a toggle or whatever, but we'll close it. So if you're driving and it happens to rain, you can close the front and you won't get water in on top of your engine. And what I will do to make things easier, right where the radius starts, we're going to cut it. And about there, cut it. We're not cutting here, this is going to be the bend line. The corrugated cardboard's a little bit jagged, so it doesn't leave a nice edge. This one here, I think we can roll it and not have to cut it. I'm going to cut it off right there. And that way we have a nice rolled edge on the bottom that we don't have to weld, finish, sand, grind, or anything. This applies to anything. You do a fender arch, roll the flange. You'll see on the quarter panel in the Charger. We don't weld. Say we have a curve here, like that. All right, and then we have the mating curve. This is just a quick example of what I'm talking about. Let's give this a nice curve, say something like that. And then we get that, we cut that off. So we have the curve, we have a piece we're going to match up to it, right? To create, say, edge of a fender or something. You're going to have to weld that really carefully. And you see how this is taking 15 seconds to set up, but even still, you weld that corner, then you have to grind that corner, finish that corner to give you a nice, clean radius all the way around. That's, for the Charger, that wheel arch is about 5.5 feet long. So just think of welding 5.5 feet and finishing it in such a way that it comes out perfect. Because on a corner, you're going to tell if it wavers. What we're going to do, and we normally do, is slide back a little bit, roll that down, have an edge that we can butt up to, and then weld it. It's a heck of a lot easier to line up, and that corner, the radius, is not disturbed in any way. Saves you hours and hours and hours and days and weeks of finishing time. I've seen guys do that. The first method, that there. And it's never a pretty sight. See the material? It has no place to go, so it just crinkles. So we'll cut it on the blue line that I indicated, and then we'll readjust that. These corners, same thing. Make the adjustment there, roll this up, and this one. Now to create the offset. this has to go up, this has to go down. That's right. Okay, there we have a little reveal. I'm going to create something more here, and this flip-flop, because we don't have the corners, it's kind of doing what it wants to do. And there we have another beaded area created. I clamp this down to the table, planish it out a little bit, and then fill in the corners. All right, we're going to find center here. Or make sure the center is still center. 10 7/8. Marks kind of got faded a little bit. 10 7/8. And we need to space the cover from the back 4.5. Well, that's 4. 4.5. Done. Locate the cover. Centered and 4.5. Okay, that's close. Now, I bent up this template earlier, you saw that. It's going to sit right in there just like that. So we have to basically take some old cereal boxes, use a template, works out really well, and extend this the full length.
Hey guys, check this out. What we're doing over here is we're going to try and make a clip just like that, and what it is, it's a clip that holds the chrome around the windows. So because we can't track these down anywhere, it seems like no one carries these clips anymore, we're going to try and copy this. And as you can see, the center has been caved in. You can see the back end is curled, so that's going to slip inside the chrome. The front edge is serrated and separated so that fits on the other edge of the chrome. And these can slide back and forth. So we're going to try and duplicate that. Now, the trick is, we tried punching it without anything holding it. And what happens when you hit the center, the outside edges buckle and the whole thing goes out of shape. So we had to come up with something that's going to make it nice and flat. So we start out by cutting a piece of material. This is stainless. The original did not have a hole in it. We put a hole in it to locate it into a makeshift die. As you can see, we have a pin here. We drop that plate over the pin. Oh, let's back up a little bit. What we did to make this die, we found a piece of plate with 2 holes in it, put in 2 wheel bolts with fine thread, duplicated the holes in another plate, again just as thick. We put the 2 together, and then drilled a hole in there, almost 1/2 inch. We took a piece of scrap and we cut the end off at the same angle as the depression in that clip. We took that little piece and we put it inside the hole of the bottom plate, depressed down a ways, and we welded it from the back. So now, using the part that we cut that piece from, we're going to drive this down so the two angles will match. By putting the piece on like that, that holds it basically in alignment. We drop the top plate down. Now, by running these nuts down on there like this, we squeeze the two together. We tighten them so that the material that's going to be around that depression has nowhere, it cannot run, it cannot bend up or anything. These two plates hold that surface down perfectly flat. So just tighten this right up. And matching the angle that we put that piece in, we put this through the hole, we take the hammer and tap it down. You can see the outer edges are nice and flat, and we have our little depression. There we go. And that's preset the angle of the clip. Now we just roll the bottom up, serrate the edges, open them up, and as I said before, the width doesn't really matter. It's the parts that are important have been set. So as you can see, it's taking a little bit of time, yes. But when you can't find something already made out there, you pretty well have no choice. You end up making the part. Our first clips didn't come out too well. What was happening was the punch that's got the angle on it, these edges were sharp, and they were actually cutting as they went through. They cut that little boss. So we had to soften up that outer edge so that when we tapped it down, it wouldn't tear the metal. And the other thing was that we pre-drilled the hole. We decided not to pre-drill the hole. We'll drill the hole to the size we want after they're punched. So it's a kind of a learning curve. As you're doing it, you'll see what needs to be done and you adjust to it. There we have it. Got the nice depression, it's set at the proper angle. By the time you roll that up, it'll be precisely where it's supposed to be. The hole won't matter.
Okay, we're going to get these pieces set up here, and rather than try and clamp them, I'm going to screw them right down to the table. Get this one located, that one located, just like that. It's the beauty of a wood surface. All right, so with all that back and forth, we have this rear piece established and scribed to the top. And now what I'm looking at doing, where we're going to create the hole, as well as roll a slight flange. So you don't want a raw edge on the edge. Then we'll scribe the front, trim it, just like we did the back, and start tacking the front and rear pieces together. Then we'll work on the sides. We're going to form up the openings now. Just roll a very slight edge because we don't want that kind of appearance, you know, front and center. It takes you 2 seconds. You can draw a line if you want to indicate how much you want to roll, or just use the micrometer. And I could use a tipping wheel too, but some people don't have one, so you can just find something nice and sharp, nice and heavy, clamp it down to something that won't move, and away you go. Time to assemble. I think we're going to do this on a few tacks. First we'll line everything up, see how it looks. Looking good. Oh, one thing I got to do. That sharp point there, we're going to take it off. There's the other one. Just that's it. So we're going to get a couple tacks on this just to hold everything in place, and then I'm going to get this up on the car and see how it looks with the hood closed. It's not too bad for weight. I don't think it'll sit up here though. That's the problem. And that little warp is kind of complicating things a little bit. Let's see. I don't know, I guess that'll be okay there. Alright guys, 2 batteries later and recharge the microphones. Here we are. We've got the top section all tacked together, all the pieces. I just kept going because you only have so many hours on the weekend to get this stuff done. I need to work those flanges a little bit more, bring things in together. A bit of a peak right there. I don't want that, so it has to be worked out. I was going to, but it's getting late. On the engine, I've got the air filter mounted. Top cut down, got some spacer nuts in there because I can't find a stud long enough or short enough, proper length enough to accommodate that right now. So we're going to leave it as that for now. It's not the finished product, don't worry. Make a good thumbnail, but it's going to be changed up. Got the top panel or the bottom of the shaker screwed down. Now there's a little bit of wobble here. I don't want that. So we have to come down with some bracing, say if any maintenance needs to be done, we unbolt it from the filter housing, the lower section part, and pull it out, and then we can do the power steering fluid, whatever else. What I'm going to get into right now is adjusting these flanges so they come in nice and tight. Some places there are little gaps, little offsets, the sheet metals one way or the other. So I'm going to basically take a hammer and dolly, or this plate, depending where we are, and just level them out. Get this welded up, and then we're going to get into making the scoops for the butterfly valve. Well, there we have it, guys. One shaker hood top section just about done. And what I started stripping off that paint on the inside, and they actually had the green etching primer, and then whatever on top, and that whatever on top, whatever primer that was, the white paint didn't stick to it in some places. Some places it was really down there. So I'm going to find a piece of pressed paper long enough. We're going to roll it into a ring, shove it in that hole. This might actually work. Nope, not too short. Got a gap there. So that when we roll this over, we have an area that we can incorporate a butterfly valve into. Create a boss, one on each side for a shaft, because otherwise if you just use sheet metal and drill a hole, eventually after many miles you will wear a groove into that, and you know it won't feel as good. And then I'm wondering, do we put an actuator in here or just run a cable down, out, and into the cabin? So I think the cable would feel more authentic. Right. So we're going to use a piece of 22 gauge again. All right, chop chop, roll this, get it installed, and then we can weld it in around both sides. I should prime this area up in here, because once we get it in, this part, we won't be able to reach it, and I don't want any bare metal inside this cover. A little bit will burn away as we're welding. We'll do our best to address that later, but for the most part, it'll be primered. If somebody tells you prime everything after the fact, unless you dip this, you're not going to get in to those areas unless you have a little weeny spray gun and get up inside it, or just flood the heck out of it with your gun, which doesn't work either, because you only got to put so much primer on, otherwise you're going to run into a lot of problems. Vertical, angled, we might have to tighten that up a little bit. We'll see how it sits. And the top, give it a bit of a, like that. See, I guess I should have rolled the ends first. Live and learn. So there's one scoop. Looks pretty, right? Yeah, yeah. It's not going to fit there just yet. It's not bad. It goes in the hole, but we will have to sharpen up these radiuses. This is all four of them. These flanges are a little bit wonky right now. One's a little bit longer there. You know, I'm going to take and grind them flat so that we can fit that up a little easier. I'm gonna spare the details. Biggest thing is clean it up, wash it up, wrap it up nice and tight, and let's move on. And the red stuff you see on the part, that's Sharpie. Ooh. If you don't want to bend, new gloves. Okay, that's fitting up quite well. Top has to go a little bit, and we're a little bit high. That's what I was trying to adjust. I need to be able to see all four sides. And the best way is this, and yeah. So I need to close this space in a little tighter. That'll help move the panel that way, and close this gap in here. So that can roll up a little bit and close that in. So we're close. I'm gonna go bump this again and we'll fit it. Okay. Just need to tighten up this upper radius a little bit more. I want it to be sharp. This bottom one's soft. I want the top one, the bottom one soft here. I want the top one to be relatively tight. Taking this piece, tack the back side, and now we're going to start actually fitting it and probably tacking it to the hole. Well guys, that looks pretty good. We've got the two scoops welded in from the front, finished around the back, and I've scribed the line, cut them off so that they're even. Now we can start working on the little butterflies. I found a piece of linkage rod. Heaven knows where it came from, but it's going to work perfectly. It's the right length, well it will be once we cut it. And I've also found some square nuts here that fit the shaft dead on. So we're going to take and tack these in place, and well, once the rod is in, once the butterflies are done, and then we'll slide the rod through. In terms of a keeper, I don't have one, so we'll probably put a little washer here. This will be for the cable to attach to. Put a washer there, a small tack, and then washer and a small tack. That's the game plan. It might change. I might be able to cut a small groove in there with a hacksaw and put a little clip. We'll see. We'll see. I think once all this is assembled, she's not coming apart. This is going to wear and wear and wear because of these bushings instead of, like I said, sheet metal. And it's going to square things up too because we have funny angles going on the inside. Everything was primed. A little bit got burnt away. We'll hit it with some more primer. No problem. Okay. I would have liked to have some linkage control in the middle for balance, but you know, we're not going to the moon with this car. We go driver's side, then we have less length to deal with for a cable. Otherwise, need a really long cable, so we'll do something like that. We'll cut it off there, and that will be our rod. We'll fish it through, hopefully. And now we need to figure out how to create the butterflies. So follow the line. Well, half our job is done because most of it is just it's not going to be an airtight seal, but it'll prevent 99.9% of the water from gushing in. got a little reveal kind of dremeled in to these scoops here so that the flappers actually sit just within the edge a little bit. And that way, when this rotates through, they basically self-align within the hole. You don't want them to kind of catch on the edge if they happen to move for whatever reason. So that's basically why that was done that way. We've got these little nuts. We're going to be welding them to the scoops. But before I do that, I got to find some washers. I need to, this is the driver's side one, which is that one. So we need to find a way, this is just a magnet, to hold these in position right about there so that we can get them aligned perfectly with the rod. And I think the best way to do that is to put a very teeny tiny tack somewhere where we can just grind it out. It's going to sit really well there. Like I said, this assembly, do we do it so we can remove it? I don't really think so. Once this is built, there's no need to disassemble this, aside from painting, which we can do with the flap open or closed. And yeah, we're fine. So we're going to make this permanent. Get that in there just like that, put a small tack, and then do the same over there. Okay, so I found some little washers. And we have our nuts, which we will weld to the outside. One there. Second one. There. And then the last, well, the washers we can tack at the very end. Right now, I just need to get everything aligned. We could go ahead and spend a lot longer on this and make this all removable, but I'm not going to. Just pushing the little flappers tight up against the rod. And we're going to put 2 small tacks there and there. Okay, moment of truth. Grind off these tacks and see if it pivots. We will have to put a little cam arm on here for the cable to go through. There we go, guys. Flapper works quite well. The last thing I want to do is weld a little cam on here, and the cable that comes through will have a little Z in it, and it'll fish itself through that cam. Aside from that, looking good. Like, we can't roll this all the way down because of the shape of the hole. If it was a rectangular hole, sure, but here, like, that's more than enough. Beautiful. Got this piece of flat bar. It's going to be perfect. I just cut off a piece, say about 1 inch long. We'll have the adjustment in the cable itself, how you tension the cable, so, or how you adjust the tension within the cable. So we're going to keep this nice and short. This opens really freely, so you don't need too much mechanical advantage. And the other thing is we don't have very much room to play with in here. So get a piece about 1 inch cut off, drill a hole, and we'll weld that to that rod. And that should be it. Got the little cam positioned. It's below the surface, so it's not going to interfere with anything. We'll maybe have to make a little clip to hold the end of the cable. But that's something that we can do on this lower portion, the part that's bolted to the engine. Have a little angle clip coming up, grab the cable, because we don't want this cable sliding around. All right, guys. That's going to be it for this little flapper. Can't pick it up because it's so darn heavy. Hot. There we go. Just gonna bump that. So when the cable's all the way in, flaps are closed, you pull it back towards yourself, it opens. And that's it. So I'm gonna do a little more metal finishing later on. I'm gonna go kick back for a bit. It's really close, and I think we can give it, well, after I do a little touching up, a couple of little things I have to deal with. I do have to drill some larger holes here, around the perimeter, so that this can be bolted to the flange. Let's drop it in the car. I'll show you guys what it looks like. And there we have it, sitting on the engine. It's all braced. See those rods coming up, picking up this lower pan all the way around. And when it comes to these fasteners, we'll replace them with something appropriate, stainless perhaps, fastener. And looking in the holes, we've got our flappers. And when we close the hood, well, it's not on center because I just kind of stuck it in there. There we go. The back corner is down a little bit. That just means taking out that one rod. I had to go around an accelerator link and straightening it out a little bit. We have plenty of room. I just want to elevate it a little bit back there. And you can see we're not sitting properly. It's up in the air a little bit. So we'll get that addressed. Shape-wise, nothing's going to change with this upper portion, so we can go ahead and epoxy prime that. But as for today, I think we are finished. I'm finished. Next time you see this, it'll probably be painted. Yeah, we had to change out that original rad. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on creating an aftermarket, very simple shaker hood. Simple in the sense that we took some liberties. Let us know in the comments what you think. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It helps us out a lot. And share this channel with your friends. Take care.